Welcome to our bonus day of 30 days of death records. I'm sharing the death records tracker that I promised on day one. But before we look at that, I want to thank you for joining me for these last 30 days. Thank you for sharing your time, your research, and your stories with me. And I hope that you learned something along the way or found some bit of inspiration to carry with you as you continue your research. And now that we have finally reached the conclusion of 30 days of death records, I would love to hear which record we've covered that's been your favorite, or if any of these records have been a help in your research so far. I know for myself, preparing for this reminded me of certain threads of research that I'd dropped along the way and forgotten, or perhaps I just missed before. And that's part of the reason why I started tracking my progress in this spreadsheet, collecting various death information and related records. It helped me see at a glance where I was in my research, but it also let me see patterns in the information that I was collecting. This record should not replace your research findings, by the way. If you've watched my video on why you need a research log, you'll know why I think that that's so important to keep track of. Instead, think of this as an additional research helper that allows you to collate and compare different facts about your ancestors' deaths. You can keep track of where you're at in your research with each person by updating the research status here. You can track dates and location of deaths, get a picture of the ages that your ancestors passed, collect records in one spot so it's easier to reference them when you're researching multiple family members at a time, track the history of causes of death in the family, if they were buried and where, if the cemetery is still active, and if you've contacted them yet. Same goes for a funeral home or a church. I like to track what religion they were so I know where to search for church records. I also have an area to track when I've checked for probate records. I started tracking their country of origin recently, and I also tagged the surname to the ancestor as well as any costs that I paid for records, the last time that I researched the individual, and any notes that I might make along the way. And I'll usually leave dates on every note that I make for that individual. This has been a work in progress, and I'm still adding columns when I think of something else that I want to track and compare across ancestors. I'll probably add more columns so that I can include even more records, maybe for cemetery and funeral records eventually, because I like having them here in one spot for different family members. It's easy to click on them and view them in detail. So now this tracker is yours as well if you'd like to give it a try. I'll share a link to it in the description. And I'd love to know what other columns you might think would be good to include on here as well. Feel free to give it a try and come back and let me know what works for you. And with that, Seekers, 30 Days of Death Records has officially come to a close. Thank you again for being here with me and working to preserve your family history. Keep up the great work.